Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where and when you're watching this broadcast. I'm Thomas Fessler, my friends, and this is Disclosure Tonight. Happy Monday, September 16th, 2024, as we marvel at the LUE Elizondo media tour as it continues, because that, my friends, is what we're going to be talking about tonight. Without any further ado, I want to thank everybody coming to this episode of Disclosure Tonight. More importantly, I want to thank our audience that we have participating in the chat right now, because remember, the chat is where it's at. If you haven't given us a like, give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, take one or the other. More importantly, if you haven't subscribed yet, do us a favor, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you as a regular here on Disclosure Tonight. Without any further ado, let me start the drums. A little too loud as usual. Let's go ahead and welcome in our audience. Who do we have out there? Well, let's take a look. It's Ann Joanne. Aubrey McLeod is here along with Digger Dog. Firefly made it here along with Frank Einstein. Close enough. Frankenstein. Jake is not from State Farm, along with Jake Cat, Kathy, Kelly Brote, and those piercing blue eyes. You almost match my shirt, but they're a little bit more brighter. How about that? Gotta thank King Bull for being here, along with Metal Gaming, Paul DeMond, Shelly Montgomery made it into the audience today, along with Tia Loreno. Good to see you, Tia. Two-Seeker, Wildcat Mahone. And he's listening from his post at the office. Got to welcome in Yell Tommy Tanker, also known as Andy. How about that? But to remember, if you guys have anything to say, you have a question, you have a comment you want to make, do us a favor. Follow that link at the top of the chat. Yes, we are the only show that actually opens up our doors daily. Well, whenever we're on, whenever we have a show these days, I tell you, to go ahead and welcome in people into the back. Remember, follow the link. Have a question. We'll be right here for you. On that note, talking about the chat. It's that time of the night, friends, to go ahead and welcome in our friends in the back. Well, the first person it looks like we've got here is someone who is our remote viewing targeter, Mrs. Laura Campbell. How you doing, Laura?
Hi, thank you for the Mrs. Been married a long time, so I really use that often, that moniker.
How long, if I might ask?
Oh, a long time. If I told you, you'd know how old I am.
23 years.
Really. Sure.
Oh, really? Longer?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Thank you. So, yeah, it's good tonight. Lots of news. Been watching the James Webb information coming with modulation being found. All kinds of stuff to go after this week. I'm going to go remote viewing tomorrow, so I should have some more for everyone by Friday.
Yes. Thank you very much. Since we've got this going with, okay. Well, thank you very much, Laura. Appreciate you coming in tonight. I was going to jump into talking about the Aurorasaurus. Check it out. The Aurora's coming again tonight. If you have clear skies, you're in the northern hemisphere, you may be able to see some Aurora tonight. So thank you for coming in today. Now let's jump past Metal Gaming because he's not here. Let's welcome Nick. How's it going, Nick? Well, it looks like Nick stepped out for a second to check out the kids at the pool. Let's see who else we have. Or I could say, let's turn the world upside down and go down to Australia. And, well, I could say it's none of your business, but it's actually Susan Ford. Susan, we can't see you, but how you doing, my dear lady?
Oh, there you go. Look, there's a cat's bum. Right for you. Good morning, and how you be?
Good. I don't have the sonic screwdriver within reach right now, otherwise I bring it out and pass it to you through the ether. I love the humor. It lines up with this perfectly. Thank you for coming here, my dear lady. Wonderful to have you. Also, let's take a look. Our dear friend Sarah, how's it pouring, my friend?
It's good, Thomas. I look forward to today's show, man. I think it's going to be another good one, like always.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Wonderful to have you here, my friend. And then up to New York, I think Long Island. Let's welcome in our dear friend, Tia Maria Loreno. How's it going, Tia?
Hey, Thomas. Good to see you.
Like
Good
the
to see
hoops. You look great, my dear lady.
Thank you.
You look very professional tonight.
Really?
Well, the shirt, the hoops.
If you could see down, you'd think different.
Don't spoil the image. Thank you for coming in, my dear lady. Can't wait to hear your comments tonight or questions you may have along the way. And that wraps us back to Mike, Disclosure. How's it going, Mike?
Going well, Thomas. It's going to be another fun show.
Yeah.
Covering everything coming on with Lou and the interviews lately. Yeah. I think we're going to have some fun.
Oh, I think so. Now, one of the things that the audience, if they haven't been around too long, may not realize, why do I say Mike, Disclosure? Because before, you used to be a regular on the show. You were a regular. You said, Tommy, if you ever need me, just say my name 3 times and I'll be right there.
That's right.
Yeah. And it works.
Still works.
It works. It works, I tell you. It still works. It's a good thing. All right, let's get on to this. So, we got a LUE roundup all over the place. One of the podcasts we saw today was the PBD podcast. What does that PDB stand for again, Mike?
Paul Ben David.
Yeah.
He's the podcast host.
Yeah. And I know this is a 13-minute clip, way too long for us to be able to get into there and play it, but I just want to go and play it for the audience because we got a couple clips we got to play on this. First one here is, we've got that video that I've showed many times from Malta. Haven't released it publicly out there for dang good reason. It's too good. And one of the things out of that was the observance of the speed characteristics of the craft, meaning based on the airplane that was moving along about 450 miles an hour and the UAP coming down, swooping right in front of it and jetting off to the right side of the scene, of the camera for that matter. And I estimated about 13,000 miles an hour, and I said, gave it a range on a slow side, 11,000, on a high side, 14,000 miles an hour, somewhere right in between. Now, Lou's going ahead and talk in this little clip here, and he brings up and talks about the performance characteristics of what was seen from the UFOs back in the late 40s, early 50s. And that one caught my eye. I want to go ahead and share this with everybody. Let's get into this first one here. Oh, desktop, video, full guest. All right, here we go. Let's play this little clip, and then we'll talk about it.
People, I think that is just, I think it's a bridge too far. You would have to exercise such control and hope that nothing goes wrong. The amount of coordination. Look at historically that we have the reports going back to the 50s of these things doing 13,000 miles an hour. We had just broken the Mach 1, the speed of sound, and these things doing 13,000 miles an hour in low Earth atmosphere on radar, multiple radars, tracks, we see it. That means we started this campaign, 60, 70 years ago? That doesn't make sense. Plus you have people that today we have them.
I would love to see the radar readouts on those, Mike. Wouldn't you?
Oh, hell yeah. But they're classified, right?
Are they, or are we in a land of supposition? Let's listen a little bit more.
On gun camera footage. It's not fake footage. It's real, right? So I can't subscribe to that. Now, is it possible? Look, anything's possible. Absolutely. It's certainly possible. You can't say it is impossible. But the likelihood is, I think, is so unlikely. I think it's preposterously unlikely that would be the case. I just don't see it. I don't see how you could coordinate something like that.
Yeah, I just think
Yeah, so about that, Mike, yeah, it's hard to see that. How are you going to have a craft going 13,000 miles per hour back in the 50s? You know, today,
exactly.
Maybe they could say something is doing it, but if you look at the technology profile of what was seen in the skies so many years ago, right? And then you put that according to what's going on in today's terms, maybe yes, but in the early 1950s, there is no way any country on this world could have had technology like that. Am I right?
Because in the early 1950s, we didn't even break the sound barrier.
Barely. We barely broke it.
Let alone a craft going 13,000 miles an hour.
Yeah. It's one of those things you have to take a look at and understand more. So here we've got, let's get past that one. Let's keep the UFOs. In our next clip, LUE Elizondo says the Roswell crash material he held is impossible to replicate. Again, the Roswell material is impossible to replicate. Let's go ahead and watch this clip, and we're going to go ahead and get rid of that fair use. Turn that off for right now and turn it back on again when I have to. Let's get back in here and listen to this one, and we'll talk about it. Here we go, and bring it right up.
The material that to this day
2 minutes and 41 seconds long. Let's watch a Paul Davis podcast. Paul PBD. What does it stand for again? Paul
Ben David.
Paul Ben David. Remember, check out the Paul Ben David interview of Lue Elizondo on YouTube. Another great podcaster coming out and talking about something that we haven't had a chance to yet. So let's go ahead and play this clip and see where it takes us. All right, let's get into this. And welcome, everybody. Hopefully you're enjoying this. Let us know in the chat if you're having a good time. Let's play this. All right, here we go.
If you say it's unidentified object, then we don't 100% know, because it may have come from Russia or China or anywhere else that maybe at some point their engineers figured something out that we just don't know about.
That's a great point. So let's go down that rabbit hole for a minute, because that's wonderful logic. And you,
oh shit, hold on, screw that up here. Sorry.
Anywhere else that maybe at some point their engineers figured something out that we just don't know about.
That's a great point. So let's go down that rabbit hole for a minute, because that's wonderful logic, and you're absolutely correct to presume that. So let's take that argument for a second and deconstruct just a little bit. Let's look at where some of this material, its origins came from. So it came right at the end of 1940s. Okay, this is material that to this day we cannot replicate. So that would assume that some country out there has, since in the late 1940s, early 1950s, which, by the way, where was China? It was in the middle of a famine. Where was Russia? Well, they were barely trying to develop an atomic bomb. We had barely broken the speed of sound, Mach 1, and we hadn't been to space yet, right? So that means some country had the technology to build something in total secret and then deploy that capability over controlled U.S. airspace and over censored military installations, and has been doing so for at least 75 years. Now, if that is the case, then this would be the greatest intelligence failure this country has ever experienced, eclipsing that of even 9/11. And I don't say that lightly, because 9/11 just happened, right? I mean, this is, we're celebrating, we're not celebrating anything. We're unfortunately memorializing 23 years. You know, it was a horrible event. But this would be even worse than that, because that means despite the billions of dollars that we invest each year into our intelligence community and our national security apparatus and all 17 intelligence organizations out there, someone has managed to fly under the radar, no pun intended, with this technology, create it and deploy it without zero accountability, meaning no one knows, zero sponsorship. No one knows who's behind this technology. And so that means our country is totally failed. We've been leapfrogged technologically by an adversary, and oh, by the way, have been for the last 75 years. So that's not a really good scenario to be in, right? And so we invest a lot of money to always keep a competitive edge on our adversaries,
which we have been doing for a long time.
We're looking very, very carefully at their new emerging technologies, whether it's Russian hypersonics or, other technologies they're working on. We know what they have.
Where do we find this piece?
Now, Russian hypersonics, just talking about Russian hypersonics for a second, after this weekend, we had a video put out from, who was it? The United States government regarding a nuclear strike against Russia, showing how much of Russia we'd obliterate within an hour or two. Russia came out and said, yeah, with our hypersonic missiles, we take out your major cities within 30 minutes. Do you have a statement?
I guess I can talk about it. So the material that I have personally held in my hand was acquired by some folks in the OSAP program, allegedly from a crash that occurred at Roswell.
Allegedly.
Correct.
Crashed
Allegedly.
From Roswell. So the stuff that he held in his hand came from Roswell, and if I can find the other clip, I want to talk about it, is that not only did it come from Roswell, this is the time that he was at TTSA, to the Stars Academy, and they shelled out a big chunk of cash, right, Mike, to Linda Moulton Howell, who had some material that came from Art Bell, that came from someone else who actually potentially found something. So there's a multi-step of ownership of this material, but eventually LUE did own it. But when LUE held the crash material, as he's calling it, in his hand, it wasn't to do with anything with the federal government or his positions within the government, Mike. Right, Mike?
That's correct. Absolutely. But what he just mentioned was at the time that he was at OSAP, they too had the material because
If you say
Dr.
it's
Halpudov
unidentified.
Yeah.
and Jim Lukatsky were working on that material, primarily Hal Puthoff. And that was at the time that he was referencing. But you're also correct when you said when he was at TTSA that he and Tom DeLonge were also dealing with the government on this type of material. So yeah, both statements are correct.
Yeah. So LUE did potentially hold crash retrieval material in his hand, but it was outside of the scope of his role in the federal government, right? Although they did take this material and pass it on, they sold it, I think, or licensed it, whatever it was, to the Army. And that eventual material was given to, who was it, Battelle or someone like that? And they went and they analyzed it. Oak Ridge National Laboratory, where Sean Kirkpatrick is. Yeah. And they came back and they said it's nothing special. So what is it, Lou? Is it something that is truly special and something that's there? Or do we believe our friends at Oak Ridge National Laboratory?
It's a good question.
Yeah. Now,
we got nothing out of TTSA
coming from scientists like Jared Yates, he's saying this stuff is really special. Isn't he, Mike?
He is. You're correct, Thomas.
And so independent science is more validating what Lou is saying than what we're hearing coming out of Oak Ridge National Laboratory and Sean Kirkpatrick. Do we have any idea when some of the advanced results will be coming in from Jared's team?
They're currently working on the next phase of experimentation that they're doing, but it's going to require, if you remember, Gary Nolan was talking about he was working for the government, and he too had material, but they used the military large terahertz machinery to test the material itself, which is not accessible by civilians.
No.
But Jared found a private company on the East Coast that has similar equipment. And they're going to be scheduling, submitting a proposal to have the material that they're researching to be tested with that type of material. So that's ongoing right now.
Isn't there some other kind of high-tech X-ray they wanted to go ahead and check out this material with as well?
There was, but this is different. They want to see if they could put high energy through the material to see if it creates an effect like hovering or levitating.
Does it go ahead and reduce the gravitational force on the object when it's submitted to high terahertz waves, right?
Correct. That's
basically
absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Yes. No, that's exactly what it is. And that's what they're in the middle of doing. So soon to be, information will be forthcoming soon enough.
I can't wait to see where that's going to take all of us, my friend. All right, getting on to it if we can in our next clip. They walked right up to the line, but didn't ask outright. LUE Elizondo was quick to assert that it was non-human biologics when he stated there were biologics retrieved from these crashes. Now, this is from the latest Need to Know podcast, but before we get there, Syrup, you have your hand up, my friend.
Yeah, isn't Oak Ridge managed by... or isn't it, managed by the DOE?
By Battelle, National Laboratory.
Yes, it is managed by Battelle, and Battelle rolls up under the DOE. So Battelle, I believe, manages all of our national labs, don't they, Mike?
Yes, sir, they do. And because it's under DOE, which is protected under the 1954 Atomic Energy Act, it is also non-foirable. So any work that's being done there is absolutely something that the Congress has no access to or the public.
And declassification of any information coming out of the DOE doesn't just require the president. It requires the president. It requires the head of the DOD. It also requires the head of the DOE. And I believe it's the head of the CIA? Or is it the FBI? I think it's the CIA.
Yeah,
Requires
CIA
all
as well.
four. It requires the president, the president, the head of the DOD, head of the DOE, and head of the CIA. So you've got four people that are going to have to go ahead and sign to it. Now, if we do get a new president like Trump coming in, which it sounds like he may be the most applicable to letting the truth out on UFOs. Thank goodness on that one. Time will tell, but we'll see. Hopefully something will get there. But the president has to appoint the new head of the DOD. He has to appoint the new head of the DOE. He's the one who's signing, but then you've got the head of the CIA. And I believe, can't the president fire the head of the CIA, Mike, and propose a new leadership for it? I think so.
The president is able to fire every head of every major agency within the government, which is part of his cabinet. So yes, Thomas.
Yeah.
They can absolutely do that.
Absolutely. So there is a chance coming in with a new administration, if they have the goals up front and have the right people they put into play, they could march disclosure out a lot faster than this. Sorry, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, and we got a long ways to go. That none of us want to hear. Let's continue on. So they walked up to the line. Elizondo's is talking about human biologics on the latest Need to Know podcast. Let's go ahead and bring up this video and play it next and see where it takes us. Don't worry, chat. If you have any, not the chat, if anyone in the back has questions when this is going on, raise your hand. We'll go ahead and take care of you as we're going through this video. Here we go. Let's get into this and let's play it and let's have some fun with it. That's what this show's about. It's about being serious, about not being serious, and having fun along the way. So, all right, let's play this clip and let's get into it.
To the best of my knowledge. But something you have brought up a couple of times. There are two things you brought up, and I just want to make sure I'm understanding what I'm hearing. You talked on Joe Rogan, for example, about how we're happy to go fly a helicopter around and, tag a snowy plover or a wildebeest or whatever and do our business with them and then release them back into the, you talked about that. So my question is, are you confirming that we have a abduction issue problem? Because you've also talked in your book about implants. So I just want to hear it in plain English. Are people being abducted? And is that something that we're aware of? And are we doing anything about it?
This is a huge question for all the people out there who have had experiences as children and continue as adults potentially. Something talking about abductions has something that LUE has kind of avoided, and a lot of people avoid because we're getting beyond the nuts and bolts. More importantly, as you hear about this, we come up to the experiencers, Bill of Rights. We talk about what are our rights? Why is the government allowing this kind of stuff to go on if they know about it? Let's hear what LUE has to say.
So the allegation is there. We know for sure that some people have sustained negative medical consequences as a result of getting too close to a UAP. That may be inadvertent. It may be a result of the technology itself and not deliberate. But keep in mind my background as a former special agent, right? If you let's say take an Uber or a taxi and you want to go to the mall, but instead they take you to their house.
But LUE is talking more about Havana syndrome or something along that lines, or people or military people getting too close to it. He's not addressing the question about people who have been abducted that are average, normal citizens. That's the key here that's getting avoided.
That's kidnapping, right? That's a felony offense. And, oh, by the way, if they happen to touch you without your permission, even just touch you, that's assault, right? So now we can start adding up the crimes, the federal crimes here. That doesn't seem benevolent to me. Now, imagine that happening to your kid, right? We got a problem.
This is coming
if that's happened, we've got a serious problem. Because look, in some cases, doing that kind of stuff is an act of war. Literally, it's a provocation.
Unless it is real.
That is indeed happening. Now, there are people that will tell you all day long that it's happening. My focus at ATIP was more nuts and bolts. So I was more interested in the military encounters over controlled U.S. airspace, over sensitive military installations. So that wasn't really my area of focus. There were individuals in the program that were more focused on that. That is their.
So there are, you know, Mike, I think that's the first time I've heard that Lou is saying there are other people who were in part of ATIP that were investigating human abductions. Have you heard that before?
Never.
No.
First time.
But that's what he's kind of saying, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Let's rewind a second. Let's continue.
Story to tell in the patients. So that wasn't really my area of focus. There were individuals in the program that were more focused on that. That is their story to tell. But I personally come from the background that if you are taken away against your will and touched in any way, I don't see how that's a good thing. I know some people say it is, and they report that it had a good experience, but I don't think I'd like it very much if somebody tried to take me somewhere without my permission and, touch me.
So you should definitely be spotted that one. It's not necessary. You said you were more nuts and bolts. So the thing that you have said in your book and in some of these interviews that's very nuts and bolts is you've casually stated that Roswell happened and that it was NHI. I mean, you haven't been hiding that. You've actually said it. So just so I'm hearing this straight up, because Roswell's been something I've been looking into for a long time. Are we finally getting to the place where we're going to admit that Roswell was a crash of an exotic technology that included bodies of potential NHI, and that this has been something the government has had in its possession going back, 75 plus years now?
So I will answer your question with a statement. I had been approved by the Pentagon to talk about this particular aspect. I will say that
So he has been approved by the Pentagon to talk about this.
there was a point in time where I was told to my face, verbatim, I am not allowed to talk about crash retrievals at all, or I will absolutely go to jail. And I've honored that. And that's why my book went through the DOPSR process, because I wanted to make sure before I talked about it, I had approval from the Pentagon to do it. And so my book took almost a year to go through the Pentagon process, but they approved me talking about Roswell. And so that's why I can talk about Roswell. Yes, Roswell, by all accounts, was a crash. It was not a balloon. It was not test dummies being thrown out. It was a crash.
Hold on. Shit. Sorry about that. I just lost that.
Two things, 74.
And so that's why I can talk about Roswell. Yes, Roswell, by all accounts, was a crash.
So it was a crash. Does he say what it was a crash of? That's the key.
It was not a balloon. It was not test dummies being thrown out. It was a crash. In fact, it was two events.
So
and bodies were recovered, bro?
Yeah,
correct.
I mean, you say two events.
That there were biological samples that were.
You mean two craft that crashed with each other and created separate debris fields, or one craft that blew apart into two debris fields?
So what I was told was that there was two events. One was recovered and by us, and one was able to go away on its own, and that that biological samples were non-human biological samples were recovered. Keep in mind, this is the end of the 1940s. LUE Elizondo wasn't alive then. But there were people and there were reports that were generated as a result of that event that colleagues of mine had access to.
To the best of my...
Wait a minute. So this is something Lou's talking about. He didn't have access to these reports, Mike, but colleagues of his did have access to these reports. So it sounds like this is information that he is gaining secondhand to historical reports. Does that make sense?
No, you're absolutely correct about that. Second or third hand information and knowledge.
Right.
But he also said that in his book, if you remember, when he talked about going into OSAF and then ATIP, he talked to Hal Puthoff and Jim Lukatsky, and they were giving him information which is considered to be second or third hand. So yeah, he's stated that you're right, that's exactly what this information is coming from. There's no first-hand knowledge.
Right. So he's been clear to talk about it, but the information he's received, what happened with Roswell, meaning we had one crash that happened, and there was another one that we recovered. There was another one that happened, but the ETs recovered that and they got away, in other words.
Yes, they escaped. But what's interesting is Dr. Gary Nolan had done an interview on the Good Trouble show, and what he said was that these craft, they seem to, with whatever technology that they're using and have been using, seems to be unstable. And what Dr. Nolan said is that it could be a strong radar beam or an electrical storm or even a nuclear bomb going off for testing that can create an electromagnetic pulse that would disrupt the unstable technology that is being used by these craft. So that's interesting.
No, that also aligns with what I've heard many years ago from Tim Dust, also known as UFO Man, who had heard about this in the past throughout conversations that he had been through. From what the word was on the beat a couple of years ago, that Roswell happened was they were going and testing not EMP technology, but at that time they were just testing Doppler radar. High-resolution radar, which uses microwave technology. Remember, the key word here is microwave, to go ahead and actually handle the imaging. And the blast of the microwave energy on these craft is what destabilized and caused the first Roswell crash to happen.
Correct. That's according to the historical record. That's exactly what happened.
Right. I can't see us dealing with EMP experiments at that period of time, dealing with Doppler radar, which aligns to it, makes a lot more sense. But what Gary Nolan is saying, I have to agree with you, Mike, on that one. So now, if we have another clip here that's up for Tom Whitmore's award, LUE Elizondo's take on Majestic 12, saying there's an absolute cabal, an organized group of individuals who have a comprehensive understanding of the U.S. government's involvement in the UFO topic going back decades. Let's go ahead and jump in this little 2-minute clip with LUE Elizondo, again, coming from the latest Need to Know podcast. If you haven't checked it out, you may want to add that to your playlist, my friends. Let's go ahead and let's get this one up here and playing. Here we go.
Have you heard of Majestic 12?
I'm aware of Majestic 12. Let me see if I can answer this in a way that is succinct and accurate. There is absolutely a cabal, an organized group of individuals who have a comprehensive understanding of the U.S. government's involvement in the UAP topic going back decades. They are
interesting, Mike, because there has been a lot of talk on Twitter of LUE actually being part of that cabal.
Yes, there has been.
Yeah, and it continues. Even Bob Salas is bringing up some of that stuff. So let's see where LUE leads us on this one.
Very influential, and they guard this information jealously. In the past, they have been able to exercise extreme influence, and I cannot overstate the terminology I'm using here. Okay. To keep this conversation squelched. And both Dave Grush and I cannot speak for Dave, have felt the brunt of that at one point. And I'm not prepared to go into that conversation right now. That will, at some point, that part of the story will probably be revealed. It's very concerning and disturbing. The lengths that people will go to in order to keep this conversation under wraps. Again, I understand it. I don't agree with it, but I can understand the rationale. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. there is a very, very influential and powerful group of individuals, and not all of them are necessarily happy with this conversation happening.
I guess the only follow-up I want on that is, have you seen that memo, the Eisenhower briefing memo, and do you have any emotional feelings one way or the other about whether you think it's real or not?
It was before my time. I have no idea. I wasn't even alive. I'm aware of it. I saw it. I didn't write it. So,
okay.
There you go. What are your thoughts on that one, Mike?
It's very interesting. It seems like he's not directly diving into the abductions. He's usually tiptoed around it.
Yeah.
But now he seems to be touching base. And
you heard of Majestic 12.
This is more an MJ12 than it is abductions.
Well, with MJ12, he's said in the past that they asked him, was it real and is it still current? And his answer from a while ago was, and it even put this in the book, but what he said was that yes, it was real, and now it's still active, but it goes by a different name. They're not called MJ12 or Majestic 12. They changed it for the past 75 years, but they're still operational, but goes by a different name. But he never mentioned what that name was, so
yeah.
It's hard to tell. And when you get a chance, when we're done with Need to Know, check your text on your cell.
I will do that.
A timestamp.
I will do that in 1 second. But before we get to that, I just want to go ahead and bring this up really quick here for those who are interested. If you live in a spot in the United States and you're in the upper 50 United States for that matter, you can kind of get some clear skies out there, you're near the border of Canada, well, guess what? We actually have a aurora alert coming in for anybody who's interested. We had a big impact coming in from the X-class solar flare to be followed by the coronal stream that's coming towards the planet. This is something that I love to watch on a regular basis, and this thing is starting to kick up tonight. So if you're in Iowa, Nebraska, North Dakota, South Dakota, Idaho, different areas, northern Washington, there's a great chance you're going to have an opportunity tonight to get out there. If you got clear skies and see the aurora borealis, my friends. On that note, we've got another one coming in where in our next clip we're going to play, here's LUE Elizondo doesn't confirm or deny pseudo-physical phenomena. Pseudo-physical phenomena. What the heck is that? Let's go ahead and take down that chat right now and get it so we can see it. And let's play this next clip and see where this takes us. Again, coming from the latest Need to Know podcast. Let's check it out.
So, Lou, I want to get into this issue of threats. So you've been assailed by some people for talking up a threat. In some interviews, you've given the impression that you're almost talking about a potential for invasion by a non-human intelligence. And I just want to quote to you something from Jeff Kripal, Professor Jeff Kripal's new book, How to Think Impossibly, which I found a very interesting read. He says, I strongly suspect that what we finally have in the UFO phenomenon is a spiritual physical phenomenon that is being grossly misinterpreted as a conventional military threat or potential corporate technology, but that no one really understands, much less reverse engineers with our strictly physicalist assumptions. To speak paradoxically, and I hope shockingly, we are trying to shoot down souls. What's your take on that?
Well, again, you can't argue a negative, can you? I can't say that's not correct because, frankly, we don't know. If I can just digress here for just a moment. Look, there's more to this topic surely than nuts and bolts. Just like there's more to the topic of me when I go to the grocery store than just nuts and bolts in my car. There's all sorts of things behind it. There's intent and there's motivations and there's, if you want to say, and there's a spiritual aspect, sure. I mean, we are, as human beings, I often say, we are spirits having a physical experience. There's more to Ross or Rice or Lou than this, right? Because if I lose my arms in an accident and even my legs, I'm still Lou, I'm still me. In fact, if I suffer a traumatic brain injury because I get too close to some ordnance or something like that happens, or I trip on the sidewalk, I might have some debilitating issues with my brain, but I'm still LUE, right? So it's not the body that defines LUE, the physical nuts and bolts. It's not even the intellect that defines LUE. There's something else that defines me. It's what makes me me, and what makes you and your audience your audience. Because it's not just a physical body and a brain. The question is, what is it? And for millennia, mankind has been giving it labels like the soul, the spirit, the chi, the id, whatever you want to call it. But there is something else that's a little bit more perhaps elusive and yet indelible than just a physical body that makes us and the human experience. Look, I tell people all the time, if you want to believe in spiritualism, I can ask you a very simple question. I said, do you love your kids? And people will say, yeah, of course you do. And my answer is, then prove it. How can you? You can't touch it. You can't taste it. You can't hear it. You can't smell it. How do you know it's real? Well, can you even define it for me? No. I mean, we all feel it. We all know it's there. And yet we all have a very, very difficult time putting our finger on just exactly what it is, right? And yet we all inherently accept it to be a real thing. So we are spiritual beings, at least most of us, unless someone's sociopathic perhaps, but we are beings that are very spiritual. So is it really that much of a leap to say that, oh, I don't know, NHI also have this aspect to them? No, it's quite possible. Look, I've got 4 German Shepherds, and they all have human names, and they treat them like a human. Why is that? Are they human? No, of course they're not human. But there's a connection there. It's beyond just the fur and the 4 legs and the tail, right? There's the dogs and myself, just like anybody who has a pet out there. There's a connection, and it's a connection between kindred spirits. It's not just a physical connection. It's emotional and spiritual connection that we have to our loved ones. So maybe there is another aspect to this. The problem is that from a national security perspective, they're not really interested in that, are they? They're interested in incursions over controlled U.S. airspace. They're interested in potentially reconnaissance over sensitive military installations. They're interested in potentially the manipulation of our nuclear capabilities, right? These are national security issues. If you want to talk about the other stuff, probably your priest or your local imam or rabbi would be better suited to have that conversation, because the national security apparatus isn't really the best place to put that conversation, if you ask me. In fact, I don't want a general telling me what to think about this topic from a spiritual perspective. You want to tell me what to think about this from a national security perspective? Hey, rock and roll, I got you. But don't tell me what this should mean to me and humanity from
Shit, did it again. God damn it.
Suited to have that conversation, because
sorry about that. I clicked on it and it jumped
they're interested in incursions over controlled U.S. The National Security Act.
Sorry.
We are beings that are very spiritual. So is it really that much of a leap to say that, oh, I don't know, NHI also have this aspect to them? No, it's quite possible. Look, I've got 4 German Shepherds, and they all have human names, and they treat them like a human. Why is that? Are they human? No, of course they're not human. But there's a connection there. It's beyond just the fur and the 4 legs and the tail, right? There's the dogs and myself, just like anybody who has a pet out there. There's a connection, and it's a connection between kindred spirits. It's not just a physical connection. It's emotional and spiritual connection that we have to our loved ones.
But just want to say this really quick, Mike. I'm not going to turn to a priest or a rabbi to tell me the spiritual connection and how it works with the non-human intelligence. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Neither would I. So you're right about that.
Yeah, I'd more go towards a scientist and someone else who is experimenting or trying to figure some of this stuff out than I would going towards someone who's a man of the cloth. Whatever cloth that might be that you go along with.
Well, if you want the
So-
truth, you would not go with a man of the cloth.
No.
You would go with a scientist. So I agree with that.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes that may be some military people, depending on their experience and what they know and what's going on. I would just hope against it because military, government, I mean, come on. Can we really trust anybody from the DOD? Can you really trust anybody from the executive branch? I'm just saying. A lot of great things to say, though, but it's the office and the part of the government they're involved with. It just makes me feel wrong to say it. Wow, actually sounds...
It is wrong. So, you're right. But this is a good clip. So
Yeah.
is this the last
And
of it
sorry about the
that's,
jump. I clicked on it when I got back. I wanted to pause it, but I didn't click into it to play. I'll make sure when I click into a video from now on that it's there. So let's continue on.
Maybe there is another aspect to this. The problem is that from a national security perspective, they're not really interested in that, are they? They're interested in incursions over controlled U.S. airspace.
But from a national security perspective, wouldn't you be interested in it if they're able to get into the consciousness of your soldiers?
Yeah, that would be common sense, you would think, right?
I'm just like, huh? Why wouldn't someone in the government, they're looking at we would just want to look at the nuts and bolts. How do the craft work? What's the heuristics? What's the morphology of the craft? How fast does it go? Not worrying about that the craft that's flying around can noodle their way into the brains of our stupid human pilots and other people to weave and pull information out of it like they knew where the cap point was with the Tic Tacs. Just saying. If that's part of the puzzle, why would you stick your head in the sand like an ostrich and not want to delve into that? Because I would say, from that perspective, that makes it the biggest national security threat of anything. Not that we have to worry about soldiers keeping their secrets, but we're looking and talking about it in a skiff. But if an aliens can go to the pilots who have just come out of the skiff and pull the information out, wouldn't that be the number one issue?
Yeah, you would think. But if you remember, we had Bob Salas on the show on Saturday. And he said that in 1967, when this craft came over the ICBM Minuteman III missile silo, it knocked out all 10 missiles simultaneously. But he also said that they knew right where to hit us, and they did.
Well,
how did they know?
The other thing that was interesting coming from Bob Salas, which I'm not sure if you picked up on, is what the technology wasn't permanently damaged, that it was temporarily put out of commission.
Correct. It was shorted out.
Not even shorted out. It was initially, I guess maybe you could say shorted out generally means it's dead. But what they did is they disrupted the technology's ability to go ahead and function for a short amount of time. So they didn't permanently damage the stuff. They just had to go ahead and actually take something, if you want to call it tripping a fuse, could like shorting it out, and then they had to go back in and reset the stuff on the missiles one by one by one.
They, like you said, they basically flipped the switch on the missiles and then turn it back on again.
Exactly. All right, here we go.
They're interested in potentially reconnaissance over sensitive military installations. They're interested in potentially the manipulation of our nuclear capabilities, right?
Not the manipulation of our soldiers' consciousness. Come on, Lou.
These are national security issues. If you want to talk about the other stuff, probably your priest or your local imam or rabbi would be better suited to have that conversation.
Oh, I got an allergy coming up. Oh, sorry. No, I don't agree with that. Your priest and your rabbi is the last person you're going to want to go to understand the consciousness part of it. To understand the consciousness, we have to get down into what are we observing and how does it happen. To say we need to take the consciousness aspect and push it into religion, it's a cop-out, 100%.
Because the national security apparatus isn't really the best place to put that conversation, if you ask me. In fact, I don't want a general telling me what to think about this topic.
But a general could tell you need to put on a special kind of a hat that's treated with materials to keep the ETs from getting into your brain. That could be part of the protocol. So what's wrong with that?
From a spiritual perspective. You want to tell me what to think about this from a national security perspective? Hey, rock and roll. I got you. But don't tell me what this should mean to me in humanity from a psychological or sociological or even a theological or philosophical perspective.
No, but what we're talking about is more of a biological standpoint, right, Mike? We're talking about how do our brains work, information that comes in and goes out. Consciousness, for the most part, is still a puzzle.
It hasn't been figured out by medical science yet. Still a mystery.
Yeah. But if they figure out ways to keep the demon thoughts out of your brain, sometimes you got to follow it.
That's why we're having this conversation. That's why this type of conversation is so important.
Great answer. And it makes me feel like you always underrate yourself. You say, I'm not.
Great answer. Come on. Come back with another part. Just don't let them diatribe and just accept it. But look at the expression on Ross Coulthart there. Do you see that?
Yeah.
Is it me, Mike?
It's not you. It's written all over his face. You see the smirk?
I'm just looking at his eyes.
Yeah, but look at his smirk. That kind of gives it away.
It's one. Yeah.
Not a physicist.
He's getting ready to chuckle and laugh.
Not this big. Actually, you've become sort of our Carl Sagan, who's not. You're explaining these complex things to people. I like it. But
Bryce, you say that to all the girls, I'm sure.
Well, actually, I'm not. I think Carl Sagan probably knew a lot more than he ever let on, if the truth be known in the future. But anyway, we're talking about the nuts and bolts.
King Bull, good job on unfollowing Rogan today. Just saying. I've been reading your little tweets here, your little messages in between. Even they're laughing. So where are we at now? Oh, Mike, what a great show tonight so far. We've gotten through a bunch of video clips, and I think I may have more.
You do. I sent you a message.
I know. Let me get to this one. Where's that at? In a breaking UFO news alert coming from Crypto Mike. Oh, Steve. I don't have the original. Mike sends me a link to say, oh, look at this thing, this so far in the podcast, and I don't have the actual podcast here. Oh, you're going to make me work on this, Mike, aren't you?
I gave you the timestamp.
Yeah, a timestamp to a video that I don't have downloaded or cached.
Can't you put it up on a browser, on a tab, and just open YouTube, play that clip at that timestamp?
Well, I have to find it first. PBD podcast. Oh, LUE Elizondo. Let's get into this. Louis Elizondo. Let's go to there. And you're saying 1 minute, actually 1 hour, 19 minutes
30 seconds.
and 30 seconds. So this is a little clip here talking about doctors.
You should play a Bijou clip.
Stephen Greer. Interesting, Stephen Greer. Someone who was pointed out to me years ago by I wonder who. And I was even shared his yearly financials, also known as his IRS report, and heard horrible stories about the kind of kids he was picking up in D.C. It's not the kind of stuff I like to hear, but sometimes when it's passed on to you, you have to talk about it. So let's get into this. Why else would be passed on to you? So let's play this little clip here about hearing about Stephen Greer. DC Muscle Wolf. That's right, ABM. All right, here we go.
So I don't ever usually have an opinion on anybody. I never talk about anybody if I haven't had a chance to meet them personally.
So I had him on for the second time 2 months ago. And are you familiar with Sean Ryan, podcaster Sean Ryan? Mm-hmm. He had Greer on. Rob, can you pull up that one clip? Because this is the part where it's kind of...
Lou is getting uncomfortable. Look how he's bringing his arms in.
Like,
I think I'm aware of it. I know the one you're going to show.
Yeah, there's a couple of them. I want to show this one here, too. I want to see what you're going to say about it. Go ahead.
When you're talking about these disinformation agents,
Hold on. I have to put up the fair use on this. This is getting podcast on top of podcast on top of podcast. Let's play it.
Yep.
And let's bring it in a small window. Let's analyze this as we're going along, Mike, like it's Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Sure, it's what we do best.
Oh, yeah, we have a fun time with it. Our audience loves it, don't you, audience? I love you guys. AVM, thank you for coming in tonight. Wonderful to have you here. Thanks for that go-back conversation regarding 2034. Told you so.
Knox. I have somebody that comes to mind, and we were talking about him at lunch. LUE Elizondo. Is he one of them?
Oh, of course. I mean, you know, as soon as he emerged on the stage, I had a very senior guy at CIA who's worked this issue since 1979 contact me about that problem. But remember...
Greer's problem is he was the chosen boy. He was the chosen one. And when Lou came around, he was shuffled to the back of the audience, and he didn't like it.
The only way that you can control...
Also known as DC Muscle Wolf. Search it, everybody. DC Muscle Wolf, one word.
At this point, all this coming out because of what we have and what we're pushing forward through media is to control the narrative, the spin. So the people coming forward who get an all-access pass on to, say, 60 Minutes or something like that, are people cleared by this same illegal, corrupt organization because they'll tell the public, yes, the UAPs are real, but we don't know what they are. Well, this is an absolute lie. We absolutely know what they are. Some of them are ours, man-made, and are confused quite frequently with the others, which are of extraterrestrial origin, or ETVs, extraterrestrial vehicles. And those operatives are taught very well to take an issue, grab it, capture it, and then spin it in the direction that they want. Now, the direction they want is endless ambiguity. Gee, we don't know what they are. We don't know what they are. It's nonsense. We've proven what they are. Well, you know, I have...
Steven, come on, get to the point.
755 whistleblowers.
You have 700?
He's blowing 750 whistleblowers?
55 whistleblowers?
Yeah. I mean, this archive is unbelievable.
You had mentioned that you...
What do you think?
750 whistleblowers. Look at the expression on Lou's face. He's just... Has he got a little thing going on the bottom of his chin where he's trying to pull it like he's a pirate or something, Mike? It looks like it.
Yeah, it looks like it. But his response to Greer, you got to play that.
About what he says, because well, where are the whistleblowers? And I'll tell you, isn't he the same guy they wrote an article about, if I'm not mistaken, who apparently was accused of taking people on a tour and then paying some dude to pay, like $500 to drop flares out of a Cessna?
Yeah, that was in, I believe, in Florida, wasn't it?
Vero Beach, Florida.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the same guy?
I don't know that.
I think there was an article. You can, I think it was done by the Debrief, I think. Anyways, you know, my mom always told me to have nothing kind of say, don't say it at all.
It wasn't the Debrief. It was like New York Times or something to the extent, and they railed on Greer, and it was his one of his great sightings where he brings all the people in, they pay their thousands of dollars to come and see UFOs, and they saw these amazing things go off in the sky, but it actually aligned to someone who was part of a flight school who went up there and was dropping flares from his plane.
So I've never met the man, but, you know, it's nonsense. I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, look, where are the whistleblowers? You know, when I went to the IG, you know, and had my conversation, I didn't see any of them. You know, I know the ones that we talk to. We go to Congress and we talk to Congress.
There's the article by Tom Rogan. There we go. July 31st, 2020.
I haven't seen him.
Is this the one you're talking about?
That's it.
I'd like to suggest that he is a regular contact with extraterrestrial kindly in a person begins to document close encounters of the fifth kind.
He's charging a tuition fee of $2,500 to $3,500 depending on facilities costs. Well, Lou's coming in at 10% of the cost at $250. What's he doing?
But is really contact with them. Well, the U.S. military, I'm very confident UFOs are unknowns, not belonging to China, the U.S. or Russia. He said, I'm not convinced that these objects, what Greer seen, tuition fee, week-long tuition for $2,500 or $3,500. Back in January 27, when Greer expedition claimed to have summoned 2 UFOs, the video of sightings was posted to Greer's YouTube channel, and this incident was first close listed on a photograph. Control of flares.
Stuff, yeah. Supposedly there's some UFOs that showed up, and that's the thing. Greer's got them actually going ahead and taking the UFOs and what they're doing and acting like they're dolphins in a tank, or orcas for that matter. And they're trying to say we can go ahead and control them and bring them out and make them perform for us just by having them, by mentally having them targeting and vector into the location that you're giving them.
Yeah, through meditation.
So I'm looking for night scopes. There's no smoke. There's no trails. There are no flares. It continues. They're falling. They're waiting for us to arrive. A few seconds later, Greer implores the school, let's welcome, and begins to join us into meditation. This is a beautiful color. You'll see. You'll never forget the color. This is huge. Yes, this is ignore.
Move on. This is just getting through the whole article of Greer's stuff.
Registered N110SU was recording. Flying 76 Duchess. Later is true. At 9:11 p.m. January 27, 2000, Beach 76 Duchess. Registered N110SU was recording. Flying at 85 miles off Vero Beach. This is lower than aircraft normal cruising speed. Would feasibly allow the air crew to deploy parachute flares or some other illumination device. The aircraft took off and returned to the airport in Fort Pierce. The screenshots below showed the aircraft's location at the time of the event. The owner of the aircraft is listed by Federal Aviation Administration as R.E. Ben Aviator Incorporated.
This is one of those things that Greer would wish to go away.
The aviator and flight and maintenance supervisors told me that the college never does things like dropping flares. After sending a Spear a copy of the flight record, he did not respond to any further emails.
Nope.
Incidentally, another aircraft listed to RE was forced to land on Section Interstate 95 on Florida on January 30th, 2017 after running out of fuel. CNN has also reported that RE received a loan of between $350,000 or $1 million under the federal government's coronavirus relief. Got it. Okay. So what's your point with this? You're saying that some of the stuff that he's doing, by the way, is that the video? Can we see it, Rob? Can you just play that? I just want to see what it looks like.
Let's watch the video going on here of Greer dropping the video of Greer's. Here we go.
Orange object. Look up. Oh, whoa. Oh, my God. Whoa, just don't pop too much. Please. Crouch down and look, because you'll block our cameras.
Yeah, wow. Those are illumination flares.
Those behind me may move and stand up, because...
Well, what is he saying they are?
You see that color?
I don't know. I don't pay attention. I don't, like I said, I don't know the gentleman, so I don't invest any time.
Okay, so to me though, where I go with this is I had him on twice, and I listened to. By the way, I don't know if you watched the documentary he did about the Invention Secrecy Act of 1951.
No, I don't watch his material.
Okay, in your world, who is Stephen Greer or types like him in your world in the military? How do folks look at someone like?
How do you look at Stephen Greer? How do you look at Stephen Greer? Let's bring it up.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. What you're about to hear may disturb you. Beloved alien celebrity Bijou, the extraterrestrial, was found dead on the outskirts of Wyoming. Reports from eyewitnesses who had spotted 2 men making a hasty escape from the lifeless Bijou. Currently, the Space Force is conducting an investigation, and a pivotal piece of evidence has emerged, potentially indicating that this could be a case of homicide. We've obtained a leaked audio recording from a nearby trail camera.
You think you know pain? Please don't hurt me, please! Remember what you did to me? No!
Thank you for watching. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other.
Oh, Mike, that is such a classic. I'll never forget. Let's continue on. What about Greer here in Bijou?
We don't deal with him. ATIP was only focused on military encounters. And so, as a civilian, I'd never met him. I don't know much about him. And, I've never worked with the guy. I'm aware of his feelings towards me. He's certainly entitled to whatever feelings he wants, but proof is in the pudding. We got videos released. We've got Congress involved. We've got an Arrow now, an organization that's been established. We've got whistleblowers coming out. I don't know what to tell you.
What whistleblowers coming out? Who do you got, Mike? We got David Grush. Who else do we have?
Well, potentially, and you and I have covered this on the show, Rear Admiral Tim Gallaudet was going to be testifying when they hold the next hearing. He's confirmed. So that's one of them.
True.
And Lou himself said that he would come out and testify if they asked him to. So that could potentially be another one.
And we had another woman come out recently on the Good Trouble show, haven't we?
Sarah Gam, who was someone working within the UAP task force.
The person, if you want to go ahead and get a psychic reading or reach out and touch a dead relative. Why would you charge for that? If you have the skills and the abilities, why would you charge someone $125 an hour to go ahead and and reach a dead relative other than scamming the public? Syrup, go ahead. Why would you do that?
Yeah, I got a question about 3 different people. What do you think the chances of, or 2, Jay Stratton or Carl Nell being called to testify? Do you think there's a chance they may whistleblow or no?
Well, I can tell you that at the UAP public hearing that David Grush testified at last year on July 26th, he was supposed to be coming out with Colonel Carl Nell, who was Dave Grush's supervisor. He was a superior officer in the UAP task force, because Carl Nell was one of the directors in the task force. And he was going to come out and he was going to back up all of the testimony that David Grush had submitted publicly. But at the last minute, he withdrew and did not testify. So would he come back again to follow up with what it is that he originally was supposed to do a year ago? I doubt it. I have a lot of doubt about that. That's my opinion.
Yeah. But I do have a clip coming from Avi M, who's in the audience right now. Avi, thank you for being here tonight. We're saying Matt Ford is something coming forward in 10 years. UAP related, maybe UAP invasion related, a pending disaster, LUE Elizondo. Yes, I've heard them. I know of them. It's not my place to have that conversation. Remember, people have asked about that. They have brought up 2027. We've said, no. I remember 2034. Mike remembers 2036. Either way, Matt Ford asked the question about 10 years from now, which would be 2034, and Lou backs off from it. So let's see this little clip here that's aspect ratio squished, but you know what? Let's play it anyway and see where it takes us, everybody. Let me get into this and say desktop video full. Here we go. Oh, no, not that one. Here we go. Let's play it and see where it takes us.
Now, there have been some significant rumors of events regarding UAP that may occur within, like 10 years or so. I don't know if it's something coming or a natural disaster. You hear of something big coming down the pike. Have you heard of these claims? And if so, do you have any idea what it may be?
Yes, I've heard of them. Yes, I'm aware.
Why is it not part of his conversation, Mike, is the question that I have to ask. Whose part of the conversation is it part of?
That's a very good question. I wish I had the answer for that for you, but I don't.
Yeah. Matt Ford asked about 10 years out, 2024. This puts us into 2034 for that matter. And remember, John Ramirez was talking about 2027. But this
Correct.
pushes it out a bit farther. And people were asking, I saw on Twitter today, why could it be such a variance in timelines? And the way I would look at it, honestly, is if you have something that's coming in deep space from a far distance away, the amount of time it's going to take to get there, depending on the propulsion's method, could vary easily by 5-10 years, right, Mike?
Oh, absolutely, it could. You're absolutely correct on that. So, I mean,
have you ever?
Go ahead, play the clip.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that it doesn't matter who says what or what we think. The bottom line is we'll get our answers. You just have to wait and find out, see what happens.
Oh, fuck around and find out is more like it.
Oh, exactly.
So in our next clip, we have Mike Kalanigo actually going ahead and asking, have you ever seen a non-human craft in a facility? And Lou goes on. Let's see what Lou has to go ahead and say about this one. Now, remember, there were a lot of questions that were asked by Matt Ford purposefully that Lou Elizondo could not answer, right, Mike?
That's right.
And considering the close conversation, the close proximity, as far as Matt Ford being part of the Bill Maher, he's a lighting rigger, potentially, for the Bill Maher video show that goes on. And what he's got going on here, he's asking Lou about some information that he clearly knows, and he's trying to get Lou to answer questions based on information he's already been delivered, just like we've been delivered the same information, right, Mike? But
that's right.
We would know on this podcast not to ask Lou those questions, especially if you already said, this is all I can say. But Matt Ford seems to be hell-bent on trying to get Lou to expose himself on areas where he can't. So let's go ahead and listen in on where Matt Ford fails once again. Here we go.
Personally viewed, as part of your official work, have you ever personally viewed a craft of non-human origin in any type of facility?
I would not be able to answer that question.
Totally understood.
So why does he ask these questions, Mike, if he already knows that Lou can't answer? Is it for the clicks? Is it a baiting kind of a thing? Or is it just trying to say something? I know something more, but we can't say anything, and Lou is going to say we can't hear anything.
I think Matt Ford was taking questions ahead of time from some of his audience members, and I don't think he was in sync with Lou on the line of questioning. He did no homework, no preparation. He's throwing whatever will stick to the wall at Lou, and Lou is pushing back.
Yeah. That seems to be part of it. No, we do have another clip coming from Oliver BF saying, oh, Matt Ford is something upcoming. No, he didn't. The 10 years ones. The next one we've got coming is from UAP James. Lou Elizondo talking about Donald Trump. Let's get into this one. I'm sure this is something that our audience wants to hear, because it's something that I've been saying for the longest time. If we want to get to disclosure, the best ability we have to get to disclosure is going to come from this Donald Trump. So let's hear this clip from Lou coming from the PDB podcast once again, talking about it.
I know it's frustrating for a lot of people, you know, that they want their disclosure now, damn it, and I get it. But I've told people, look, disclosure is a process. It's not an event. This is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And we have come farther, I think, in the last 7 years than we have in the last 70 years. So it's working. And guess what? No one had to go to jail. I didn't have to go to jail for breaking my security oath. Congress is now engaged. You now have an organization, the executive branch. You now have, for example, former President Donald Trump saying for the record, if he were to get elected, he would actually consider releasing the UFO files, right? That's holy smokes. You have a president saying that for the record just last week. I know it's frustrating for a lot of people, you know, that they want their disclosure.
So what do you think, Mike? Do we have a better chance of getting the disclosure coming out of the Trump administration, potentially coming out of a Harris administration? What are your thoughts?
I believe that if Kamala Harris is elected, she's probably going to follow suit with the current administration and how they haven't come forward with disclosure in the past 4 years. I think it'll be a continuation of that. I don't believe that he's going to be taking a different approach than the current administration has. It's going to be a continuation of the same administration. God help us with that. So, yeah, that seems to be that if the other candidate gets elected, maybe we'll get a shot at disclosure. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see on that one, too. But
an American hero.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know him personally.
Tim Sino sent us the super chat.
Wow, there you go. Thank you very much for bringing that up, Mike. And let me go ahead and check that out. Yes, we do have another super chat coming in from Hoot Hoot. Here's some loot. Keep the disclosure train rolling. That's something we're going to keep on doing. Thank you very much, Tim Sinora. We appreciate your love and support for everything in disclosure tonight. As we get into the next one, coming from Avi M. One more time. Talking about LUE ELIZONDO on the PBS podcast, David Grush has first-hand information about UFOs, but he's not allowed to talk about it. Let's see where this conversation leads us next. Let's get into this. All right, here we go.
What are your thoughts on Dave Grush?
He's absolutely an American hero. I know him personally. I worked with him. I had the privilege of working with him. He was part of the UAP task force. Stellar individual, and he is everything he says he is. And by the way, he knows a hell of a lot more, but he can't talk about it.
Mike, I have to say this completely goes against the last time we've heard LUE ELIZONDO talking about David Grush, saying
Correct.
David Grush is a big guy. He stands on his own. If you have any questions about David Grush, you should bring him on your podcast. And I'm not going to say anything about him. Why do you think there's such a change at this point?
Oh, I can't explain that.
No,
It's
neither
obviously
can I.
Some sort of a change. I don't know what the hell's going on, but it seems to be on and off like this pretty regularly lately.
I know. Let's play the rest of this video clip.
People were giving him flack for saying, oh, it's all secondhand, third-hand information. No, he's got some first-hand information, but he's not allowed to talk about it.
What are your thoughts?
Because he was saying before, David Grush is a big man, a big boy. He can talk on his own, right?
And what he said was, if you have any questions about anything with David Grush, you need to get him on the show and
you should ask him yourself and get him on your podcast, right?
Right. That's exactly what he said.
Which is a really big, what on one side he's saying, if you want to hear about David Grush, if you want to hear about anything about David Grush, you should ask him yourself and get him on your podcast. He's a big man. He's a big boy. He can speak on his own. Versus on this one, it's more of, I support David Grush. This is who he is. This is what's going on. But why is there such a big swing from one statement coming on a podcast that he sent out an email to everybody saying, I really support this guy. You need to go ahead and subscribe to him, to where what he's saying on the PBD podcast. It doesn't make sense. There's such a swing between one or the other. You should think that someone like LUE ELIZONDO should be grounded, and we should get the same information and the same take from one spot to another within a matter of weeks or months.
Yeah, it's odd because it keeps changing from one side to the other, from one podcast to the other. So it's inconsistent. Very odd.
I know. It's one of those things we deal with, and we keep on going to find out what is going on. Why are we here in this particular place? Get out of this post, and let's get into it. All right, we have another clip coming. On that one we've gone through. Majestic 12 on that one. 10 years UAP, got that one.
You said AVM has a clip that you're going to play?
No, I've been playing all the ones from AVM so far.
Okay.
I'm just trying to see what else I have here going on. Actually, today, Mike, is the 30th anniversary of the aerial school incident in Roswell, Zimbabwe.
Yeah, that was a big story.
Yeah. 30 years it happened.
Wow.
Yeah. For any of those who have an iPhone. Let's get into this one next. Let's have a fun one on this one. My phone on the table vibrates at the worst possible time. You've heard that song before, haven't you, Mike?
Oh, yes.
Oh, we all have. For those who are on iPhones, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You got to have some fun with this, going along through it. Yeah, I have some great clips getting into here.
Absolutely, American.
Oh, we got another clip coming in from AVM, LUE Elizondo on PBS broadcast. David Grush is the first-hand information about UFOs, but he's not allowed to talk about it. People were giving him flack for having second-hand information, and LUE's going to come in and say, no, he had first-hand information. So let's get to that clip now, shall we? I think so. Here we go.
What are your thoughts on Dave Grush?
He's absolutely an American hero. I know him personally. I worked with him. I had the privilege of working with him. He was part of the UAP task force. Stellar individual, and he is everything he says he is. And by the way, he knows a hell of a lot more, but he can't talk about it. People were...
There you go. There you go. How about that? What a great show so far, Mike. You know, there's so many things going on. We just have to keep our eyes open and to the sky for what's going on. There's a lot of stuff going on with the disclosure, but we just have to, you know, take it with a grain of salt, I think.
Yeah, and keep an eye on the ball and pay attention to what's moving forward, but don't overlook when you have discrepancies that don't make a lot of sense. Be skeptical.
I have to be skeptical and ask a question. Tia Maria, are you smoking a cigarette right now? I've never seen you do that before on camera.
Yes, I was, but I wasn't on camera. You were on camera.
And now the internet knows, Tia.
And now the internet knows that you actually smoke cigarettes, my dear lady. How about that?
Well, thank you, Thomas. Thank you for the...
You're welcome, my dear friend.
Being exposed.
Yeah, remember, Aurora Borealis is kicking up tonight. We have a great opportunity for people in North America to go ahead and see what's going on with the Aurora Borealis. Go ahead and check it out. There's a lot of stuff happening. Let's see. Oh, it's kicking up even more. How about that? Let's go ahead and get in there. Remember, everybody, if you are a part of North America, there is a huge solar storm kicking up tonight. Be sure to go ahead and step outside and look up. You may be amazed at what's going on. Just saying. I know I've checked everybody's locations that I have them as my friends. Everybody has cloudy skies tonight. It's going to be cloudy about in a couple hours. I hope I can see what's going on. Is it cloudy by you, Mike?
Yeah, on and off. It's we had a sunny day today, so it's not too bad.
But then again, you're in New York, so what are you going to see anything too much?
I'm not gonna see shit.
Oh, I know. What a great show. What a great opportunity to hang out with the friends. More importantly, I want to thank everybody for coming out to tonight's episode of Disclosure Tonight. Have you had a good time? I would hope so. Let's go ahead and take a look and see who is giving the super chats tonight. Tonight we've had Laura Campbell. Thank you very much, Laura. Sheila Montgomery. And of course, Anonymous Rex. Thank you very much for your love and support of everything Disclosure Tonight. More importantly, I want to thank everybody for coming out. Our friends in the chat. Who have we had in the chat tonight? We've had Ann Joanne, AVM, Cosmo Fang. Good to see you, Cosmo. Kriti Banis, Delta Echo, Elwan Hubbard, Elon McGinnis, Firefly, Jason Brown, Jake Cat, Kathy, Kelly Broughton with piercing blue eyes, King Bull. I've seen a lot of your messages going on lately, my friend. Marcus and the Mandels, Max Moisture, you're new. Metal Gaming, Mike Disclosure, Paul Damon, Shelly Montgomery, Tia Loreno, to Mothman, Wildcat Mahone, and of course, the old Tommy Tanker, also known as Andy. How about that? What a great show. I also want to thank our friends who have been in the back tonight. Who am I talking about? Laura Campbell. Thanks for coming out tonight, Laura.
My pleasure, Thomas. It's always interesting.
Always, my friend. Metal Gaming, thank you for being here, Martin.
Yeah, Thomas, thank you.
Thank you, my friend. None of you business, Susan Ford. Thanks for coming out tonight, my dear lady.
You're most welcome, Thomas. Great show. Very informative.
Shelly! Big hug. Thanks for coming out tonight, Shelly. Oh, she almost said something and muted. Syrup, thanks thanks for pouring, my friend.
Thanks,
Syrup,
Thomas.
how you doing? Thanks for being here.
No, thank you, Thomas. It was a good show today.
And Tia Loreno, thanks for coming out tonight, Tia.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, Thomas. Great show.
You better believe it. And Mike, Disclosure, thanks for coming out tonight, Mike.
It was a lot of fun, Thomas. Enjoyed the conversation, and yeah, it was.
Hopefully the trolls did too.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out soon enough.
Oh, I know. We'll get to that one point as usual. And as we usually say at the end of every episode of Disclosure tonight, eyes open, no fear, be safe, everyone. But
go back to Party City where you belong.
Absolutely. We'll catch you on the flip side. Good night, everybody. Love you. Y'all come back now here. Catch you soon. Bye-bye.